Hey, good morning, everybody. Hope you guys are rocking. We're going to hit all of the themes today, and my hope is that it's helpful and that it causes us to take some turns that bring us to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. You may have seen the title. The title is Hyperstimulation Creates Counterfeit Attraction and Robs You of Beauty. So I want to talk about this culturally. I want to talk about this intimately, and I want to talk about this theologically. And hopefully, like I said, it's helpful. Um, a few months back, and by the way, I'm starting with a political thing so we can get over it. When I say political, I'm talking about like sociocultural. So let's talk that way first. Um, it is it's unnerving um, to be so culturally and politically stimulated that you do not know what to react to or how to react anymore. And let me give you a little bit of insight to a conversation I had not too long ago. But um, my dear friend and fellow new creation new creation gospel teacher, Chris Blackady, called me a few months back, and he said, "Hey, I want you to pay attention to something." He said, "Your government," he says your government because he's Australian, right? Your government is about to have a televised Congress session. Um, Disclosing their interaction with unidentified flying objects and non-human biological organisms. He said, "What I want you to pay attention to is the American response." Okay, let's see it. So they go live, and this gentleman sits in front of Congress and says, "We have been engaged in firefights. Like we have wreckage that we are reverse engineering from a unidentified flying object, and our pilots have been injured by non-human biological organisms." So I don't care. But what I am saying is that nobody cared. And when I say I don't care, I'm saying I don't care in a sense of like, it doesn't change my responsibility to creation at all. I just have more things to redeem now. However, when some of the news leaked in the 90s about Area 51 and some of those same unidentified flying objects, do you realize that people called off work and they took to the streets and they demanded information? So that's a problem. The reason that's a problem is because when people are conscious, they become aware. When people are aware, they become involved. When people become involved, things change. So I would venture to say, and I'm not a conspiracy guy, but what I would say is that if you notice that somebody is too engaged, you have to pepper them with information to overstimulate them so they no longer know what and when to react. So in the 90s, whenever these little suspicions came out, people took to the streets. There were picket lines all over the country. We demand information. Tell us the truth. We demand information. Tell us the truth. Um, they told us the truth a couple of months ago, and like everybody's like, meh, and they move on. Let me tell you why we went meh and we move on. Because humanity was not created to enjoy a counterfeit digital reality. And I would venture to say that you were not created to know what's happening 100 miles away from you. The reason that humanity is now robbed of relationship, beauty, care, empathy, and concern is because we have been duped into thinking that we need to care about things we can't do anything about. Now, I'm talking purely physically. I'm talking about relation. Like you cannot go comfort somebody that you don't know. Like when, Kim Kardashian's dog dies, the world mourns, and the world mourns without any fruit. They can't do anything to comfort Kim Kardashian. However, because we're worried about Kim Kardashian, our neighbors are losing their friends and we can't comfort their neighbors because we have been so unbelievably hyperstimulated that we've become desensitized. Um, wise man Dave Chappelle, don't watch this. Dave Chappelle said he was talking about when he was in middle school. I don't remember if it's the Challenger, Apollo 13, whatever. They were watching the launch live because everybody was excited. the country was celebrating, and they watched it explode on live TV. They said you could just hear the country go silent. The country goes silent. They shut off the TVs. Um, they go home. They mourn for a week, and like the mood of the country changed that day. Dave Chappelle pointed out, he said, now our teenagers see that thing blow up 100 times a day, every day, because they're scrolling. They're scrolling through trauma. They're scrolling through pain, and they're scrolling through issues. And what we don't realize is that those aren't helping. Like, knowing all of that pain is not helping. Knowing that pain is hyper-stimulating, hyper-focusing, and in turn, desensitizing. So now we're being robbed of like the most fundamental human emotion, which is compassion and empathy. So because of our lack of compassion and empathy, like we're so, I hate to use this example, like I'm totally making it up, but because we're so sad about, celebrities' dogs dying, we're neglecting to relate to our neighbors. You are not created in any way, shape, or form to be sustained by a digital existence. Not at all. Relationally, let's talk about this. And this is, you might have saw a little, parenthetical title. It said adult but tactful themes. I'm not trying to be distasteful. But Jordan Peterson shared a statistic the other day. He said most men that were born between like 1985 and 95 saw 1,000 female genitalia by the time they were 18. Most men born between 75 and 85 saw 10. And that was a lot. So what happens when you are supposed to be completely energized and satisfied by the wife of your youth and what she presents, but you've been desensitized by something digital and counterfeit? Okay, this is all over. Like, I gave somebody this example the other day. If you have your spouse, this is a really like silly example, but if you have your spouse, just like put your arm out in front of your spouse and have them tickle it, right? Feels really good. But then have them scratch it and then tickle it again. What happens after it's been scratched? After it's been scratched, you can't feel the tickle. So the problem is that you're supposed to be satisfied by the tickle. If you're not satisfied by the tickle, that place has been overstimulated. So a lot of us are falling into purpose depression or apathy or whatever, just because we can't take any. We can't take one more news column. We can't take one more asteroid headed towards Earth. We can't take one more bombing. We can't take one more war. We can't I'm not saying that you shouldn't be aware of these things, but outside of intercession, expending all of your emotional resource on these things leaves you as a completely empty vessel for the things that are immediately in front of you that desperately need your attention. So now let's talk theological. And you were created in such a way that how do I say this? You were created in such a way that creation should be your number one expression. Producing things. Like God said, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it. So producing things is the foundational expression of humanity. Like that's what you do as a human, as you produce. And you were given everything that you need to produce. You were given everything that pertains to life and godliness. You're created in the image of God. You're the measure of the stature of the fullness of God. Divinity dwells in you completely. Yet, and again, this is one of those things that you have to walk a fine line for. Yet, we can spend 40 hours a week listening to audiobooks and TED Talks. And do you know that if information is going in, creativity typically isn't coming out? And you can actually get drunk, get addicted to revelation. And if you're not walking out the revelation that you carry, then getting satisfied by pursuing more revelation will end in this consciousness deal rather than a spiritual deal. It'll end in mental assent rather than actual transformation. So I'm almost home. I just wanted to encourage you that if there are areas of your life that you are feeling completely dissatisfied, ask yourself what should be satisfying you. Like, you should be very satisfied by the fact that you have a family around you. You should be very satisfied by the fact that you have a wife or a husband in your house. You should be very satisfied by the fact that there is revelatory teaching coming across your pulpit on a Sunday morning. You should be very satisfied by the fact that you are surrounded by neighbors that love you and that need you. And if you are not finding joy in any of those things, I would just ask that you evaluate if you're getting your needs met for beauty and relationship and satisfaction, if you're having them met in a counterfeit way. And by counterfeit, let's be specific, digital. If you're having them met in a digital way. So, backing into my driveway, I am going to go look at the absolute most beautiful thing that God ever placed in this world. And she is waiting on me. So I love you all. We'll talk about this more. I'll talk to you guys soon.